Howdy. Welcome to Yoga How To. For this week, we're going to get you on the inside, a little taste of Yoga Studies module. We're going to get you inside one of the sessions. We are gearing up here at Cambio for our Wisdom and Growth module starting at the beginning of June. And one of the offerings that's part of that 5-week module is the exploration of the chakras. Now, the exploration of the chakras, the way that we do them at this beginner level is through kind of a modern Western psychological, sociological lens that has kind of a ability to show us how these aspects of our lives are functioning on the mat, off the mat, in a relationship, and kind of culturally. So this is the component of teacher training that I think that most people find transformational. It's a massive part of what starts the gears working in terms of how the yoga becomes embodied and embroiled throughout all of our cells. So I'm just going to show you a few clips from some Dharma talks and give you kind of just a taste of what it's like on the inside. You won't get to see all the conversation that we normally have in it because it is usually a conversation. I wanted to just basically put clips of me in there because it's also kind of a private circle. So what happens in those circles stays in those circles. But in regards to what I'm sharing in these, it's non-specific, it's fairly impersonal, and it's practical, kind of like real world lessons that anybody could take. And yeah, so it's anonymous in that respect, while still respecting the sacredness of that circle. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this week's Yoga How To. And maybe, who knows, maybe you feel inspired after you watch this. Maybe it's time for you to think about joining us this summer for your own yoga study and wisdom and growth. We're going to be launching here soon, so hopefully we'll see you there.
Caught up later. Okay, no big deal. One of the other themes that came up this weekend is that as you go through these processes, you are going to transform. So you are doing the things that will cause transformation in your life. But if you think you're not transforming, if you try to stay back here and keep doing the decisions of like, I'm still going to doom scroll till 11 p.m. I'm still going to eat party pizzas every day, all day. And, I'm like, whatever. That would be me. I'm talking about myself. Like those are my, like when I was much younger, like the things that would like get in my way and I didn't realize it. Like, why do I feel like crap? I'm just only eating fast food all the time. Like what is happening here, right? As you transform, you are going to have to recognize that you have to make decisions about what you're putting into the system to keep up with where the system is headed. What happens if you do all these practices, do all this training, you invest in yourself in all this way with all this energy to transform, but you still keep making choices that are holding you back, that are anchoring you down, that are weighing you down? Do you understand what I'm saying? What happens? It's like a rubber band that gets pulled. And when that snap happens, guess what the snap is? It's teacher training. So do you want teacher training to break? Don't break your teacher training. So when you're doing these things that are going to inevitably force you to change, take stock, reflect, review your choices, look in the mirror, pause, think about, does this choice, yeah, I'd love to go out with my friends this Saturday till 12. Maybe I could make a compromise and go out with them till 10:30, right? I mean, that's not me because I don't go out that late on a Saturday night anyway, but some of y'all people still go out. Well, yeah, I think that's hilarious. Like, what do you do? And yet, when I was young, I was that guy. I was like, yeah, let's go out. Okay. So does that make sense? Okay. Does that feel like that conversation helps shift you toward the green a little bit more? Or does it make you feel a little bit more like, oh, maybe this isn't, like let's have an overwhelming talk here, or a come to Jesus talk about where we're at with our overwhelm, underwhelm. We want to kind of have you perfectly whelmed of viewing the world through a black and white thinking. We do this to minimize the lag time between all of the input coming to us and how we have to respond in the real world, right? So we learn this way of interacting in the world where we categorize things into good and bad, yum and yuck, fear and desire, aversion and craving, right? The other function of second chakra obviously is water and fluency and money and sexual energy and primal creative energy. But there's also, like, when it's stuck, we get frozen, right? Like, that's the function of the relationship between the first and the second chakra, right? The first chakra is about a singularity of experience. So therefore it's just us and everything else. And when we are composed with, or presented with a threat, we go into fight or flight. When we are fight or flighting, that's a reptilian brain response. We don't think about it. We don't process it. But if we try to process how we're going to oppose a threat, that's actually when we get frozen. When we actually rationalize it, when we try to think logically about it, when we try to weigh the pros and cons, well, guess what? You're already eaten by a saber-toothed tiger. You don't have time. So that's why fight or flight is actually a really powerful survival instinct. But again, we're looking at the difference between how these survival instincts built into our genetic code aren't necessarily there to promote spiritual uplift and growth, right? So the question isn't, how can I repress fight or flight? How can I make sure I don't go into freeze? How can I make sure that I don't let fear rule me or desire rule me? But how do I slowly start to convert these big forces that are inevitable for every human being into... The idea is that anybody who says they're the Buddha, they're the most dangerous person you could ever meet. So don't really murder them, but like murder the idea. Don't give yourself up to somebody who says they're the Buddha, because you need to discover this in yourself. Buddha, in effect, means awakening or awakened one, right? You need to become the Buddha. Now you don't need to read the book, because in the end, he ends up leaving the palace. The yogis who are too hardcore and starving themselves and passing out in the river and drowning because they can't even pick themselves up, can only eat a handful of rice a day. He goes and leaves the real world after he has a child and a wife, and this is kind of where, in a modern telling of this story, it gets a little critiqued, because he's like, wait, a man leaving a woman with a child sounds about right, of course. But the point of the story is that he meets the ferryman, and this is the why I bring it up, because it's the ferryman that he realizes this is the thing he's been looking for his whole life. The ferryman lives this simple life of serenity, of peace, of happiness. You realize it's not attached to status. It's not, the life that he lived as a socialite. It's not attached to renunciation, which was the life he lived as an ascetic and a yogi. And it's not attached to wealth and greed and corruption and ignorance, like hiding from the real life. And all this dude is just, that's all he's done his whole life, is just ferry people across the river. And he comes back and he waits for the next person who needs a ride across the river. And he's just like, he can't believe it, because he's like, this guy's got the sauce. How can this be? This dude isn't anything. He's just a ferryman. But like, this guy is the real deal. Like, I've been looking for this for decades. I've lost my best friend. I renounced the Buddha. I left the yogis. I left my wife, my kid. I've left everything, because none of it was what I was looking for. And now I finally find it, and it's just this simpleton who's just ferrying people across the river. So I just want to say that in that story, there's something that comes up for me in terms of a question that I want you to think about on your break for the second chakra. We also talked a lot about tonight creativity, this concept of creativity. Creativity is, well, first off, like I hope Kristen got it across, that everyone's creative, right? Like making pasta can be a creative act, making mosaic. It doesn't matter what the output is, what the outcome is, what the status, how much people like it, how much you get paid for it. Doing something creative is valuable insofar as how much it fills your cup, having nothing to do with any extrinsic level of recognition. So, if that's true, and I'm happy to argue if you don't think that's right, but let's just assume that's correct, that the value of creativity comes from how it makes you feel, how it energizes you, how it directs you towards your own intuition. So what's really interesting about that is If that's true, well, attaching it to external outcomes can actually disconnect us from the creative impulse, right? But what the question I want to ask is where is the creative impulse in your life? And where do you connect to it? Right? So that's really what we mean by passion. It's like, how can we build off? It's a relationship. It's something that is co-creative. And it's, for this one guy, it was literally about him and his relationship to the river. That's what Siddhartha ended up learning. Whereas it wasn't so much about this guy serving people, which that's part of it. It wasn't so much as just this guy like really doing one simple thing really, really well. And that was part of it. But what it really came down to was his relationship with the river. So let's take a break. We'll come back in like 5 minutes. Let's a squishy 5. Let's say 7:30 at the latest. What's your river?
What is the energy difference?
Sure. Yeah, what's your relationship to it? What is your awareness of? And it might not be one thing, like kind of like Vera was saying, like with the connection I was trying to make about her version, where it's like this non-commitment to the thing showing up, but the different ways in which she's been non-committal in her life. What is underneath the outcome of it? Where are the roots connected there? So I want to look at our relationship to creativity in the same way, because you might like live music, and you might like mosaic and all these different creative things in your life, but underneath the doing of those creative things, when we look at the impulse, like what is the connective tissue underneath the root of all these things? What is it that makes us go, I'm going to do this even if nobody ever buys one of my pieces, or even if I have to spend money to go see Coheed and Cambria or